We make the streams louder.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to SERGMOTIVE Garage. Today we're working on my RSX, and what we're going to be doing to that RSX, we're going to be ripping my head off. So this is going to basically work for any K-series. All the K-series head designs, they're all the same configuration. The only differences are the intake manifolds. I got a Skunk 2 intake manifold, so that one's going to be a little more simpler. I'm going to show you guys how to take that off, and I'm going to just basically show you guys how I rip a head off. There's not many videos on how to rip a K-series head. There's, a lot of B-series, so I'm going to try to give you guys as much information as I can, what to look for, how to go about it. So first things first, I'm going to set you guys up somewhere else. You guys are probably going to want to see how to do it, so let's just get on it. So before you start, the first thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to disconnect your battery. That's a given. Anytime you're really doing any serious work on your car, disconnect your battery. Now, since we're ripping the head off, we're going to drain our coolant and we're going to drain the oil. So I'm going to jack the car up, drain those two things, and then I'm going to show you guys how to rip the intake manifold, because that's the next step I'm going to go. After you drain those two, you're going to take your intake manifold off and your exhaust manifold. That way we're going to start separating everything off the head. Alright, so while we have the radiator and the engine draining, we're going to start getting the manifold ready to take off. So you're going to basically just start by taking off your intake piping, unplug your throttle position sensor, your map sensor, your idle air control sensors under the throttle body, unplug that. Unplug your 4 injectors. If you're running stock fuel rail, you're probably going to have a hard line that runs to the back to the firewall. You can just take the fuel line off from there. I'm running an aftermarket throttle fuel rail. So the way I'm going to take that off, I have the fuel line under. I'm just going to unhook it from here, unscrew it, and I can't take this radiator hose yet because I'm still draining the coolant. You're going to take your brake booster off. I don't know if I mentioned that, the line for that. And once the radiator's all done draining, then I'm going to take my radiator hose off, and then we're going to go for the 12s, which are holding the manifold off. But before we get there, that's just basically the best way to take your manifold off. I forgot to mention while I was taking the manifold off, or getting it ready to take off. You guys probably saw it. I forgot to mention, you got to take the throttle cable off. When you're loosening up your fuel line, or wherever you have it, make sure you got a rag handy, because there is going to be some fuel coming out of the rail. And also, since I have an aftermarket line on it, I put something in it just to stop it from trying to leak out. There was a ground. I forgot to mention I had my ground right here. Had to take that off. And the intake air temperature. When I had my piping right here, there was a sensor that I have right here. The intake air temp sensor. Unplug that. Now there is one more line on our manifold, and it's in there. I don't know if you guys can see that little clamp. That's where coolant flows to the thermostat. I don't usually get that line until the end when the manifold's already kind of it's basically unbolted. So I'll take the manifold, I'll flip it over, and I'll get that line. So I'll show you guys how to get that line when I basically have the manifold off. So recap, you saw we just got the manifold off. That's pretty straightforward. I don't really think I had to show what bolts to get. It's just, I believe, like 6 or 8 12s. Pop those out, and now I hope I wasn't blocking the camera too much, but you can see where that coolant line was under the manifold. What I used to get those, I'm going to show you right now, is these pliers right here. These long ones, you can get them at Harbor Freight. It's got a 90-degree hook on it. It's one of my favorite pliers. I use that for really reaching in tight areas. This works great. The other thing I used was some silicone when I was trying to loosen up that clamp. It was spinning, but it wasn't pulling off the hose, probably just because, you know, it's been sitting there for a little bit. So I sprayed some silicone spray on the actual clamp and on the hose, and that way when I grabbed the clamp to pull it, it just slid right off real easy. The other thing you saw me do, you saw me take off the exhaust, or the header, the exhaust header. That's just, and again, some 12s, no, those are 14s, I'm sorry. 14s, like 6 of them, take those off, pop the header, let it lay down on the back of the block, and that's it. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to start unplugging everything off the top of the head. So our coils, our cam sensors on the side, our engine coolant temp sensor, the VTEC solenoid in the back. We're going to just unplug everything off the head now, and take the dipstick out. Just yeah, that's basically where we're at now. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Alright, so as you can see, intake manifold is out. This is that coolant line you're wrestling with right here. This is what goes under the manifold right into your thermostat right there. Alright, but what we're going to do, we're going to unplug all our coils. We're going to take both of our cam sensors off. Our coolant temp sensor right there. And then if you go behind the head, I have another light here so you guys can see our VTEC solenoid plugs. You're going to unplug those, and then take your dipstick out. And I'm not going to put it on film, but then just start taking your bolts off for your valve cover, and take your valve cover off. Alright guys, so I went ahead and got a little head start on what I'm doing, and I want to show you one of the hardest parts, if not the hardest part of doing this job, is cracking that infamous Honda crank bolt. You can see I have the Honda crank tool right now. It's on it. I have it on a 1/2 inch breaker bar with my extension from the jack on the floor right there, trying to lock it. Then I'm using another 1/2 inch breaker bar with an extension on that just to crack that. You're gonna have to push like hell to loosen that up. It just took me about 15 minutes to finally crack it, but yeah, don't be scared. You're not gonna break the bolt, well, not snap the bolt, but you gotta really put a lot of force to break that bolt, unless you have like an air tool. That's your best friend for this. But if you don't have an air tool, you need that Honda crank tool. I'll put a part number, or I'll leave a link in the description to see where you guys can find it. Now at this point, you found a way to crack your crank bolt loose. What I did is I took my drive belt off. It's only the tensioner right here. You put a 14 on this bolt right here. Loosen that tensioner up, take your belt off. Next thing I did was I took my passenger side motor mount off. Well, I loosened it up, took these two bolts, this one right here, took this piece off, moved it to the side. Right now I have a jack with a block of wood holding the engine up on this side. Now I have solid mounts on this, so the engine is not going to come up too high or drop too low. If you have factory mounts, I mean, you might be able to jack the engine up a little higher to start getting to the timing cover. Right now this is the highest I can go. I can't go to that high. So, and that also works as if you have factory mounts, the engine's also going to drop lower if you're not supporting it correctly. So right now, like I said, there's a block of wood under the oil pan. What you're going to want to do is you're going to now start unplugging everything on the timing cover. So you're going to take off this this plug right here for your VTC. This guy right here, he is for your oil pressure switch. That's right under your VTEC solenoid. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but if you look under your VTEC solenoid, you're going to see there's just a plug. You just pull it out. That's it. There's no press-in plug. And the last one is on the bottom. I don't know if you guys can see it right there. That blue sensor, that's your crank sensor, your crank trigger sensor. You're going to unplug that. And after you unplug it, if you have a Type S, I suggest you take your oil cooler line off. So I'm going to take this off. Probably going to take the crank pulley off. Oh, before I forget, I meant to mention, I put my engine on top dead center. Let me see if I can show you guys. It's going to be hard to see. Yeah, there's two marks right here on both of the cam gears. They're horizontal. You want these to be lined up. And then there's a dot right here. You guys see that black dot? And a dot right here. You want those facing up. And then you're going to go down at the crank. This is going to be hard to show you guys. I'll see if I can put a picture to show you how to set your engine to top dead center. But the best way I looked at it is make sure these horizontal lines are facing each other. If both dots on the cam gears are facing up, and if the crank, there's a little notch on the crank pulley. When I take it off, I'll see if I can show you guys, or when I take the timing cover off, that's when you can really see if the engine's top dead center with the crank trigger. Here we are. We got all the sensors unhooked. I actually took out the VTC sensor. I got the oil cooler line out of the way, and I loosened up all the bolts on the timing cover. As you can see, it's ready to come out. But right there, you can see where it's hitting. It's hitting the I guess the outlet, whatever you want to call that, for the oil cooler. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this bolt off, because this comes off of your water pump. Take that off, I'm going to take the timing cover off, and I'm going to show you which bolts or where the bolts are located on your timing cover with the cover off. It's easier to show you guys that way. Alright, so here's your timing cover. As you can see, you got the basics. You got bolts up here, here. This is your actual post mount that goes to your passenger side motor mount. Take that off. And you got here, 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 down here, both of these down here, 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 all the way around. And then where the VTC is, right, or your VTC sensor, you have another one hidden in there, like right up here, because the VTC actually screws into the block, into your head. But for the chain case, there's another one hidden up here, so don't forget that one. And then there's 3 on the bottom right here, 1, 2, and 3. You get those from under the car. When you have the engine jacked up, you can get like a 10 wrench or a ratchet and loosen these from under the case, and then just start prying it from the top corners. That's how I pry it from the top, and then work your way down. Just wiggle it out, and that's it. That's how you get the chain case out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the tension off the chain. So here's the front of your engine. As you can see, we got the cover off. Next thing to do to take the tension off the chain is you're going to go down to your tensioner. You're going to take the 2 10s off the tensioner. Pop your tensioner off, and then this whole side of the chain is going to get slacked. This guide is going to come backwards. Take your tensioner out, slide the guide backwards, and then to take the chain off, if you have enough slack, you might be able to slide it off. If not, we're going to have to go up top, and we're going to loosen the cams up so we can take the cams out, because you need the cams out anyway to remove the head bolts. So here's what I was talking about. Once you take the tensioner out, you see this guide swings free. I said you guys can slide the chain off. I lied, actually, because you have the top chain guide right here. The chain's never going to come off like that. Before you get to that, though, you have to take this bolt off the tension. Well, on this guide right here, there's only one Allen head holding it. Take this out, because this is attached to the head, just to prevent you from breaking it. I mean, you could take the head off with this swinging, but if you're gonna put the head down somewhere, so take this off. There's 110 right here that's attached to the head. You can choose to just take the 10 off, or you can take the whole guide together. There's 110 down here and another one, so 3 10s all together. What I'm probably going to do, I'm probably going to take this whole guide off. Definitely take this Allen head off to take these guides off. Then I'm going to go up top, loosen up this guide, and start loosening up my cam caps to get ready to get to the head bolts. Alright, so I just loosened up all the cam caps bolts. The way I did it is, you can basically find this on Google, but find the Honda, I guess, spec on how to loosen up the cam caps, because you're going to want to do it in a certain way so that you don't crack the cam. That's the last thing you want to do, is loosen these up the wrong way, have too much tension on one side, and you end up cracking the cam in half. So you can find it on Google. Just look it up to see how to remove these in certain steps. After you do that, I can't stress this enough, is when you go to take your caps off, do not mix these up. When the head is basically, I guess, cast at the factory, these are cut. Not cut, they're actually broken off. So these caps are specific to where they're at, and they're numbered. Let's see if you guys can see the numbers. There's an arrow right there, and then there's a number 2. Same thing, there's the arrow 3. The arrow points to the front of the engine, so that's why the arrows are pointing this way. They're numbered. That's an easy, well, I guess in case you get confused, you can go by that. But when you take these off, when you put them down, make sure you know which caps they came off of, or which side of the cam. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take the caps off. I'm going to take the cams out, leave the chain, or probably take the chain out. And then I'm going to show you how to take your rollers, rockers, whatever you want to call them. How to lock these, because you're gonna have to separate the bottom part of the caps too. Alright guys, so here's what I'm talking about. This is the way I lock these roller rockers up. I zip tie them together, because you're gonna have to split this top part off the head. Not really sure what this is called, but this whole thing comes off. You got basically like a link or a bar that goes through both of these to hold these rollers on here. Now, the reason you have to lock them together, and I learned this the hard way when I did my first K-Series head, is if you pop this off and then these rollers start to come up and they come too far, there's little springs inside that's basically your VTEC. This is your third lobe for your VTEC, and when you reach a certain pressure, oil pressure, that's what sends oil pressure through the rod in here, and these springs come out and lock this third lobe. So that's how you get your VTEC engagement. So if these if let's say this rocker comes up too high, the little spring in here is going to pop out. So there's going to be a spring and like a little dowel, and the first time I did it, I had springs and dowels everywhere, all over the floor. So to prevent that headache, lock these together so that way they can't come apart. And then what you're going to do, you're going to loosen up 2 bolts, one right here and one in the back. They're usually, I believe, 10. I have a Downstar engine hardware kit, so these are Allen heads. When you loosen these up, then you're going to grab like a flat tip screwdriver and very carefully go into, like, I go from this groove right here, and there's one on the opposite side, and then in here in front of the head, and just pry up slowly, and then this whole section is going to come out. But when you take it out, make sure you hold it tight together, just to another precaution, to make sure that those springs don't try to come apart or anything. And I didn't mention it before, I'll show you guys now. There's also a coolant line in the back of the head. So when you're getting ready to, I guess when you're unplugging the harness, just take that coolant line off the back of the head. And that's it. Now I'm going to show you guys how to rip this portion off, and then after that we're basically on the home stretch. We're going to take the head bolts off.
Official hamburger restaurant of the Giants. Maximum donation $100,000. Ends November 30th, 2016.
1-844-600-PAIN is the number that you need to end your chronic pain.
1-844-600-PAIN is the number to call University Pain Medicine Center and get Dr. DeMesmin to relieve the years of discomfort due to aching neck and back issues.
100 million people suffer from pain that can be relieved with minimal invasive procedures that Dr. DeMesmin specializes in.
Stop hurting and call now.
1-844-600-PAIN.
Make an appointment now. Call 1-844-600-PAIN.
Dr. DeMesmin has offices in New Jersey and New York.
1-844-600-PAIN.
Hello, New York City.
This is Life Tips with Geico.
Life Tip 1. Quarters made earlier than 1964 are mostly silver. Keep those.
Don't be the guy that buys a gumball with silver.
Life Tip 2. Itchy mosquito bite? Put a warm spoon on the bite.
The itching will stop and it feels like a hot stone spa treatment.
Alright guys, this is basically the last step. This is the home stretch. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the head bolts off the head. I'm running ARP head studs, so the size of the head bolt is, or the nut, is a 13 millimeter. If you guys are using OEM, I can't really remember what size the head bolt is off the top of my head. You can find it on Google. Again, like we did with the when we were taking the cam caps off, I have my phone all set to go. I got a diagram of which head bolts to start with. This again, I mean, unless you guys don't do it that way, I believe to doing everything the way, in steps, the way you're supposed to, just because if you take this off unevenly, you could warp the head. Like I said, that's what I believe in, that's how I do it. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to loosen up all the head studs, take the head off, and we're done. and the head is off. That's it. There she is. Just a block in the car. There's the head. Alright, let's close this video out, guys. Alright guys, that's a wrap on this video. We got the head off. Hope this information was useful to you guys. I tried my best to show as many angles as I can. It's a little hard though, you know, when the engine is in the car, it's hard to get to certain spots. I'll try to fill in the gaps while I'm editing this to see if I did miss anything important. But for the most part, that is the overall, I guess, project, the overall way to do it. You know, the best way to attack this. It wasn't that bad. You know, it took me about, what time is it now? It's 2:30. I think I started this at like 10 in the morning. So you figure 4 or 5 hours, something like that. It's not that bad by myself. So now, I guess, I mean, I'm hoping or guessing you guys are wondering, why did I take this head off? Well, the reason is the car was smoking, not on startup, but it would smoke on decel. When I was getting the car dyno tuned, the car smoked out the whole shop. We had to wait like an hour because we set the smoke alarms off. My tuner thought, well, at the time, he thought it was because the engine blew previously. This is a K20, K24. When the engine blew up, we figured there was oil still in the exhaust because the smoke started to clear up a little bit after the car was tuned. He told me to drive it. I put about 500-600 miles on it and it's still smoking. I did a leak down test. It seems okay. Did a compression test. Seems okay. And the other thing is the car was losing about 2 quarts of oil every week. If I dailied the car for the week, I lost about 2 quarts of oil. That's what all the smoke was. It was burning oil bad. Well, it is. One day I went to fill up the car before I took it out in the morning. So I filled it up early morning, started it up, giant puff of smoke right out the exhaust. So I'm leaning towards this car's got some bad valve seals. I put the valve seals in. I could have put them in wrong. I could have damaged some of them when I was installing them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this head to the machine shop, have them just look it over, tell me what's wrong with it. I mean, the valve seals would be the easy fix. I'm hoping there isn't a crack in this head. I bought this head used. So my mistake, I didn't bring the head to get checked out when I assembled it. I just looked at it, I did a couple checks on it and said, alright, the head looks good. I don't know. Maybe it might be cracked, it might be warped. You know, machine shop's gonna tell me what's wrong with it. I'll keep you guys updated. Definitely, you guys follow my Instagram. That's where most of the updates will happen. When I have time, I make videos. I'm off for work today, actually, so that's why I made this video. And that's basically it. You know, it's 2016 right now, November 2016. I'm gonna just, between the holidays and trying to crunch on this car to get it done. I still have to take the trans apart. I got to put a new final drive in there, so there's going to be a new video on that to look forward to. Put the head back on, start it up again, see if we fix the smoke issue or not. And that's basically it, guys. Thanks for watching this video. I hope I answered any questions you guys had. Like I said, follow my Instagram. If you have any questions, you guys can hit me up there. Leave in the comments if you liked what I did, if I should have done something differently. All the feedback would be helpful. And yeah, catch you guys in the next video. Peace.